All right, today I have Staff Sergeant Cody Anderson with me of the Wisconsin National Guard. And Cody has gone over the last, I think, 7 months now from as a recruiter for the Army National Guard. He has now gone from the bottom 20 percentile to number one in the state with another enrollment, I think, right before when we were talking off camera,
Yeah.
coming through on Friday. So, Cody, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today, man.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, now I've known you for quite some time because back in my former life, I ran a CrossFit gym, and you
Mhm.
were a hell of an athlete and a coach as well. And we had lost touch for some time, but reconnected. And so I want to take people kind of from where we reconnected because I think that's really where the story begins in terms of how I've been able to support you today. But I guess would you give us just a little bit of background about yourself, maybe kind of what you're doing currently, and just like who you are as a person, just to understand.
Yeah, for sure. So, I've been in the Wisconsin Army National Guard for 17 years now. Just crossed that milestone. I got 3 years left to retirement. I had three jobs in the National Guard. First as a combat engineer, did a couple deployments with them, to Afghanistan, and then I went to the infantry, and then now I am a recruiter for the Wisconsin Army National Guard, and this is where I'm going to stay for the remainder of the 3 years.
Awesome.
Um, but yeah, so I mean that's the military career on that. I did do the strength and conditioning side of things as a in my civilian side. If you know, the National Guard's only 1 week in a month. The rest of the 28 days, I was slamming barbells and teaching other people how to
Yeah.
do that as
Besides
well.
weightlifting, I know you're an avid golfer. Is that right?
Yes, yes. After my last deployment into Afghanistan in 19, we came back in 2020. We all know how 2020 happened, right? COVID and that whole fun thing. The only thing that was open was, I mean, all the gyms closed, so the only thing that was open was golf, and I was kind of getting into that as well, and
Yeah.
picked up a club.
Well, the reason I ask that is because
Yeah.
I know everything that you've done, at least that I've known you, you've always sought to try to be the best, right? You are someone who doesn't like to do stuff maybe recreationally, but more
Yeah.
competitively, right?
Yes.
And I know that that's a big part of just who you are. And the reason I bring that up is I think there's a lot of people in the group here that might be watching this, or maybe if you're watching this on YouTube, that you might also be someone who's competitive.
Yeah.
And, as from one athlete to another, I know what it's like to want to be the best and not see yourself rank up. So,
Yes.
um, maybe you can tell me a little bit about, when our story actually reconnected here. How long had you been doing recruiting before we actually started working together? I was curious. Just refresh my.
Um, yeah, so I had been doing recruiting. I think I started oh boy, mid 2021,
Okay.
early 2021, I believe. I did recruiting for about 2 years, I believe, and then I actually resigned. I'm active duty for the National Guard, and that's something that you can resign and go back to 1 week in a month. I actually resigned because whatever reasons, and I tried my hand in actual civilian recruiting with a recruiting firm. That didn't work out. The company went under, and I kind of need a job, and I fell in love with recruiting. I just love that whole process of getting in front of people and talking to people.
Yeah.
Um, and I came back to this in May of 23.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been
Now,
back here.
most people that I connect with are coaches who are like selling their own offer or coaching, or they're a sales rep on like a coaching offer, or just selling something in general.
Yep.
So they might not be familiar with recruiting, but I guess can
Hmm.
you talk just briefly about how important is it to be able to maybe communicate well and like have a process as it kind of would relate to sales, right? With what you're
Yeah,
doing with because it's not like money's necessarily exchanging hands, but you're
no.
still asking someone for like a commitment,
Mhm.
aren't you? Could
Mhm.
you share maybe a little bit about how important that might be?
Yeah, I'm definitely not selling in the transaction world of getting money from them. I'm actually, the transaction would be time. So they're still selling me they're selling time, I guess, and
Yeah.
that commit. Um,
Yeah. No, just more curious, like, because most people who are watching this, they may not be in recruiting, but I
yeah.
guess how important is it for you? like to be able to speak well to those people and feel like you can guide them to where they need to be? Because, and is that comparable with maybe a sales process in your experience?
Oh, absolutely. The, yeah, the ability to actually communicate overall, I think just in general in life, it has to, I mean, it pays huge dividends if you're able to communicate anything, right? So if I'm in the recruiting world, and becoming, I don't know, some sort of mentor or coach for these people, because let's face it, like recruiting is very, very difficult. We're kind of in a crisis right now, and that transactional thing, it does not work,
Hmm.
specifically for military recruiting. So having the ability to articulate what I'm trying to say, capture people's attention, and get them to understand what I'm saying,
Mhm.
it's plays the biggest role in all of this.
Yeah.
That's how I
Okay.
would. That's how I would. Yeah.
For sure. So talk to me a little bit about, when we first reconnected, I guess what was kind of going on for you? Because you got back into recruiting. You said this was maybe mid 21.
Mhm.
And like, how was it going as a recruiter? Like, what were some of the maybe challenges that you were facing?
The biggest challenges were, which it sounds like it's pretty across the board with any sort of sales, but it was the big thing was I didn't know what to say in front of someone. I didn't know what to say when I was getting on the phones. I was just stumbling through words and making a random pitch. I would get a pseudo yes, a fake yes, 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 and then when it came go time, it was ghosting. Ghosting is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And then identifying like some sort of barrier to entry was huge. Like I just couldn't get past that.
Mm,
Then when I did finally get someone in who was actually interested, I would almost kill the sale because I didn't know what I was saying,
okay.
specifically in that that interview or appointment. And then if somebody wanted to join, it was because they wanted to be here, and it wasn't because of me. So
Yeah. And I guess you'd mentioned that you enjoyed recruiting and that's why you got back into it, besides just needing a job, right?
right.
But I guess like how was that kind of weighing on you, if at all, right? I don't want to assume, but like if you're someone who's got this winning mindset, you're an athlete, you're a golfer, you're competitive, you're wanting to probably top the charts. I guess how was that for you at that time? Like what was coming
Yeah.
up for you? Did it cause any friction in any way?
Um, I mean, it was incredibly frustrating to do something and not be good at it. Um, I mean, the type of person I am, I'm very competitive. I like to win. I like the feeling of winning, and I actually really like failing and trying new ideas and coming at it from that. Yeah, it was incredibly frustrating. I mean, as far as me and in my paycheck and in the government world, right? It's automatic if I do well or don't. But at the flip side, if I do really well, I don't really get much in return. So my job isn't on the line with this. So I took this as the ability, like, hey, I have the ability right now to fail and still have a consistent paycheck. And I can, start to develop some sort of processes, but as far as like what was weighing on me, it was the fact that it was like, how am everything I've done in my life, I've picked up relatively quickly and was able to see some sort of success. Qualified for the American Open in weightlifting. I
You're
qualified for,
savage, dude.
right. So, I won a few CrossFit events, nothing too crazy, just local events. Bowling. I was a bowler in high school, and I bowled on
Ah,
TV. And so I've always had that some sort of success
yeah.
with that. Earning my expert infantry badge in the military. So when I got to this, it was so incredibly frustrating to the point where I was losing sleep at night of like, how am I
Yeah.
failing so badly at this?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it sounds like you knew monetarily it wasn't going to pay off big, but for you personally, just knowing who you are, it was kind of eating at you. Um, which I know that you're not someone who sits idle on the sidelines. I guess what other things that you tried before maybe us reconnecting, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, I started where anyone started is reading books.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely terrible at reading books. I could read the pages or the letters on the page and it'll hit me in the face and I'll never retain it. So
Mm.
I literally started, and I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking with this. I went to YouTube and then I typed in how to recruit. Not even joking. And
You can't be alone. You can't be
no,
alone in
no, I mean, the way I see it is that we have the world's information at the palm of our hands. And we just it's there to take, and we most people just don't use it. So I just started doing that. I stumbled upon Grant Cardone
Mm.
at his Cardone University. I did that for a little bit. It was very good. I mean, it taught me the basics of selling, and but I feel like it's an old way of selling, right? And it
What do you mean
was
by that? Like, because because there's, I
sure.
don't know if everybody has maybe the exposure that you have to different methods. So, like, what does that mean to you?
Okay, so I would say the old way of selling is like I think of like the Wolf of Wall Street. Like, you get in there, you hit your pitch, you build rapport, you build a relationship, you take them out to dinner, I don't whatever it is.
Yeah,
And then the whole thing is build rapport, and for training that we get for the military, it's always like find their motivator, because when you find their motivator, then you can hit them with a pitch, and then um you ask for what you want or you go for the close, and then that will some sort of objection will come out, right?
yep,
And then you handle it, and then it was just like a back and forth going. I mean, you can see some success, it's volume, but I just felt like it wasn't hitting at a truly deeper level
yeah.
um with the what we call an applicant
Mhm.
or a
Mm.
prospect.
Okay.
So that's pretty much how I would,
So just to, if appropriate, to sum that up, it sounds like it's really a lot of opposition, like you
yes.
versus somebody.
Mhm.
So I guess, one of the things we talk about with the Conversuasions methodology, right, is we're no longer like pushing things on people, but we're more trying
Mhm.
to solve their problems. I
Yeah.
guess would you say besides that, was there anything else that maybe struck you as different, as I guess you and I reconnected and you got started with what you saw from what we offered?
Yeah. So all those things I was talking about, like relationship, rapport, all that building stuff, the Conversuasions, it how do I say this? It allowed for me to indirectly build a relationship with this person, right? You can typically find that that connection between someone once they start to be vulnerable and open up with you. And that allowed for me to get there
Mhm.
at that level without being like intrusive or invasive or pushy or any of that other stuff, right? It also allows for like a normal conversation with some sort of concern or curiosity that you can play, right? Or I guess you can actually just do. And just have like a normal conversation and actually bring their defenses down. And
Okay.
then when
Okay.
that happens, it seems that they're just more open and vulnerable with you. And then I feel like once you get to that point,
Yeah.
there's some sort of level of trust that the old way wouldn't we
Sure.
would get
So
there.
so I guess having done kind of both sides of it, would you say it was once you kind of understood and it clicked for you, was it easier? Was it harder? Did like because my concern is that some people might say this might be a lot to learn or try to understand, and maybe Cody's like way smarter than me. It's great for you, but
Right.
how am I ever gonna get to that point if it's such a skill heavy sort of thing? I guess was it easier if you could describe it maybe from your side?
Yeah. You know, I don't think it was easier for me, right? To pick up that way, because all I had to do was in my mind, right, and how I've formed it in my my way and my process is that all I had to do was just simply ask questions. And it seemed to be that way. And it wasn't I mean, you say something often over and over and over in repetition and frequency, you're just going to get better at it. That's just the way it is. That is the
Hmm.
best way to learn, I feel, right? You're also talking to a former strength and conditioning coach, so um uh, it allowed for I picked it up relatively easy. There were some sort of like word tracks that I had to learn and kind of understand like a concept. And then once I understood that concept, um, I picked it up really easy, like really quickly. Yeah.
Okay. Now I know it was a big deal for you to come on board because I know you had to go talk to your wife a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
She's kind of managing sort of the financial aspects at home, and
Yep.
you know you had the stakes were real, right? Like they were
Yep.
real, and
Hmm.
it had to work, is what I remember you telling me.
Yep.
So I guess you gave it a shot. What happened?
Hmm. Uh, so we gave it a shot. Yeah. Okay. So, um,
You were
I
bottom
immediately,
percentile,
yeah.
and
So,
like,
let me just play out the timeline. So I got rehired back on in May of 2023.
mhm.
And I kind of struck gold and got very lucky. Within 6 weeks, I hit a mission. And then they say you hit mission, you don't have to come back up to work, right? And
So
so I
let's
kind of,
pause. Let's just unpack that because I think
yep.
you have language maybe some people don't get.
Oh,
So
yep.
you started now. Are you calling it luck, or are you calling it that you had the right tool for the job?
So
I
okay,
don't want
well,
you to BS. You can say whatever you feel is
no,
honest.
absolutely. No, so this is kind of how it went. All
And
right.
what's mission, just to explain.
So you know how like military recruiters have quotas and people have that. Yes, it's a real thing. We call it a mission.
Yeah.
They give me a mission of put an X amount of people in a year.
Okay.
Um, okay, so that would be it. My mission would be, X amount of
So
people.
for an entire year, you have
Yes.
a certain number of people, and within 6 weeks,
Yes.
you
Within
acquired all.
6 weeks. Yeah. So it was a little prorated on my mission because I started late in May. So I needed to put three people in, and and this is where I did get lucky, right? Because this is before you, so I'm
Okay.
100% lucky. The
Yeah.
guy who redid my house, flipped my house, his son called me, and
Mhm.
he came in. We were gonna have this conversation, and then he brought a friend, and then immediately had two people right off the bat, and then all I did was just get back on the phones again and just fail, and I got another two people in, right? And then so I needed three, put in four, and then the new mission year started at October 1, and I knew that what I did was not going to be sustainable. Ran into you on social media, and I was like, oh my God, it's Kyle Craft. Like, let's and he's talking about this stuff, and had run into a couple other friends about mutual friends from the old gym days. And I said, the new mission year is it coincides with the fiscal year, so October 1, right? Which means we're gonna gear up, get back into the high schools, and get ready for that first of the year, or first October 1st. And the goal was to at least have one or two ready to stack to drop as an enlistment for that next mission year. And I think, right. So that was it. I ran into you and I was like, holy shit, this could be a potential way to revamp my entire processes and just go for it. And then what happened was within that first quarter, October to December, with all of those brand new processes, I put nine people in,
Hey,
and it was all the way up until December 31st, we got lucky with some because military entrance processing station maps, it's very hit or miss right now, and there is some luck in there, but as far as um,
but
getting
everything
them in,
within your
nine
control,
of
I
them.
guess,
Yeah,
is where my curiosity lies. So like,
yeah.
so so just for context, how long does it take maybe on average someone to get 9 enrollments or enlistments, as you would call it?
Oh man. Okay, so I'll answer it this way. Prior to COVID, when we didn't have all of these issues with getting people through meds because they can look directly into your medical history now. Since prior to COVID, nobody had put nine in a quarter, and I did it with the this new program that it's called Genesis, um, post COVID, right? And
No one had
yeah,
ever done that before,
yeah,
and you did it in 1 quarter.
yes, yes, and I'm also on pace for hitting mission by the end of February, in which nobody in the history of the state has done that
Okay.
at all.
So
Yeah,
because of that, you went from bottom 20 percentile to where?
breaking records
Okay,
to number
breaking
one.
records. And
Yep,
I mean, if I'm propping you up here, you can come through Zoom and tell me to knock it off, but you're number one in the state. Is
yep,
that right?
that is
Okay.
correct.
You got a little bonus. You got a little trip paid for you and the missus, I believe.
Yep, yep, we did. Yep.
so I guess looking back, right, like knowing what you know now, like how's it feel to know that you're number one and you actually don't have to rely on luck, right? Like you do have
Yeah.
now something sustainable. I guess what's that do
Uh,
for you as you look down the road to the future with your role, at least for the
yeah.
next
So
retirement?
yeah, so I went down this road of understanding this skill of sales. Like this is an absolute skill, right? The way I see it is that, people go to college, get a degree, pay all that money, and they have, X skill. And I just went to the source.
Hmm.
How I see it is that if I develop this skill, understand this process, and then just see where this takes me, this allows for me because I'm getting out in 3 years. I'm hitting my retirement. I'm getting out in 3 years. Who knows? I might go on longer, whatever. But no, I know that at the 3 year mark, at my 20-year mark, I should say, I won't ever have to worry about making money ever again.
Yeah,
And this is a skill that nobody can take from me.
absolutely, brother.
Yeah.
Well, um, I love it. I'm so proud that I know you and that you've
Yeah.
taken this and done, a lot of good.
Yep.
And I'm just you can say whatever you want here, but in closing, is if anyone's out here watching this and they're looking at different programs, this and that, I guess, does anything stand out to you about what might be different about what we did? Why someone like what would you say to someone who's on the fence about maybe wanting to work with me or even just reach out to talk to me?
I would say, it was always like, hey, take the leap of faith or whatever. And I do this every single day of like talking to people like, hey, join the National Guard. Um, it's a hell of a lot easier when you have someone right there beside you, helping you every single, like if you have a question about anything, it was 10 o'clock at night and you're responding back to my questions, and helping me with my processes. It's so much easier when you do have someone who actually cares about how you perform and your success. And it's almost like you cared about it more than I did, right? Because you reach out to me, it would go a week or so without talking, and you'd be like, all right, man, hey, what can I help with? What's going on? And then it would prompt me with, okay, yes, I'm having these issues. And it's a lot easier when you have someone there with you, walking, stride by stride, helping you throughout the whole way. Right.
Yeah.
So I would say it, man.
Well, Cody, you deserve every bit of success, and I wish you the best as you move forward. I know we're still going to be jamming out here for the next better part of this year, which I'm excited
Yep.
for.
Yep.
Guys, if you have any questions about selling, sales, skills, what it takes to succeed, if you don't have right now, if you're in sales and you're looking at a calendar full of calls, and you know that you don't have the certainty inside yourself to take those calls and move them across the line, if you don't know what to say when someone says, I need to think about it, I got to talk to my partner, I need to, it's just too expensive. If you're getting anything that's stopping you from earning exactly what you feel you deserve, or if you're a coach who's trying to sell your skills to people that actually need them and you're struggling to get it to market, then I'll just encourage you to just, reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook Messenger. Uh, it's the same face, right? And just reach out, guys. And all I have is time that I can put into understanding where you're at and providing resources to get you pointed in the right direction. And if it's something that I can help with, I'll let you know. But even if you're stuck right now, I want you to know that like Cody was frustrated. If you take action, you do something about it, there's always a way forward. And hopefully today, this gave you a little incentive to reach out to me because there might be something that I have that could help. So, Cody, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate your service, sir. And I'll see you on calls here this next week.
All right, man. We'll see you.
All right. Cheers, guys.